Hello, I'm Susan Giannantonio, and this is yet another sketch that I've done using some flowers from my garden just before it froze the other day. It's January here in Houston, Texas, and we had a freeze, so I grabbed some flowers and brought them in. My intention is not to depict these flowers. I'm not doing a portrait of flowers today. I just wanted to make some marks and have some fun and get a little bit of paint going. I had some paint left over on my palette knife here from a previous sketch that I did, and now I'm putting down some acrylics, some sap green, and some yellow ochre. And I have a stubby brush that I have. It's a chip brush, just a hardware brush that I cut off. My interest is in making a variety of marks, so I took scissors to this cheap brush, and I just want to make some background marks that are unique to me. I'm just experimenting, trying to create a group of unusual marks here. What I'm after is the feeling that I have when I'm down at eye level with my garden. I love to be in a flower garden, and when I get down at eye level and take a look through the brush and the leaves, the stems, and the plants, I often wish that I could figure out a way to just put a group of marks down on the paper and kind of depict an impression of what it looks like. Now I'm grabbing some watercolor here. This is dried watercolor that I have in these little Tupperware containers or Rubbermaid containers, whatever they are. I'm wetting the watercolor. I'm gripping hardened dried watercolor with my fingers. This is artist grade watercolor. Chances are, I can't say this for sure, but I believe this is Daniel Smith's sap green, and I'm sort of just smushing it around the paper. I'm getting as much on my fingers as I am on the paper, but it's creating some interesting marks and messes. And I had originally intended to tear bits of this sketch up and collage it into a workbook, but I'm not sure. You'll see at the end. I'm not sure if I'll tear this up or just cut pieces out of it. But anyway, I'm getting some interesting lines and texture, leafy sort of textures going, making quite a mess, but that's okay. It's just paint. It comes off. So I'm left with sort of a scramble of gardeny shapes. And now I have grabbed an Inktense pencil, and I am just wandering it around through my garden tangle, examining maybe a path that a butterfly or a bee might take around my expanding garden here, my imaginary garden. I like to put marks, use things to scrape with, and the pencils scrape and they leave their own marks. Now I'm using a palette knife. I'm scraping through. I love to scrape through wet paint and drag it around. Gives me an impression of stems, branches. This is all experimental, but so much fun. Scraping around. You can see me pulling the paint. Now that I allowed that to dry off screen, and I added a few colors here. I decided that I wanted a little bit more of the yellow worked in, just to give a warmth. So I have added quinacridone red and dioxazine purple, and I'm just dancing this moppy brush. It's a cheap children's mop watercolor brush, and I just decided to dance my brush around and add some hints of maybe buds of flowers. They ended up looking kind of like sweet peas. So in retrospect, after finishing the painting, I decided to call them sweet peas. I didn't want this sketch to be overpowered with flowers. I just wanted the eye to explore around through the tangles and discover flowers here and there. Now, acrylics dry a little bit darker than when you put them down. So even in this short amount of time before the paint has entirely dried, you can see these pinks are getting just a little bit darker, but that's okay. The fun thing about acrylics is that you can always add lights over top of darks, unlike the watercolor. This painting is on watercolor paper, so I will probably put it under glazing, probably under plexiglass. I'll put a mat on it. I might cut it up and make several paintings out of it. That's the fun thing about working on watercolor paper. This is an example of how you can have an awful lot of fun playing with your mediums without working so hard to make an exact replica of a specific kind of flower. This reads to my eye like the impression of a flower garden. Or maybe not a very well kept flower garden. Maybe an English garden that's growing a bit wild. I thank you for joining me in this few-minute sketch. I'm talking here to my class, so I'm chopping a bit of a recording out of a longer recording that I did for a class last week, which reminds me, if you subscribe to my channel, under the video, you'll find a link where you can contact me. I teach classes off and on throughout the year, virtually and in person, sometimes here in the Houston, Texas area. And I'd love to hear from you. So don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and be in touch. I always love to hear from artists from all around the world, so that's the fun thing about YouTube. Here I'm just looking around. This is an example of how you can find paintings within paintings when you work on paper. And to be honest, I haven't decided exactly whether I'll chop this up into multiple paintings or not, but there you have it. That's my little sketch. with lots and lots of unusual marks.